Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Living in Sync podcast. I'm your host, Joelle Cease. And it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And I am recording this around the beginning of April 2026. So I've had a lot of time reflecting on Q1 of 2026. I know I've talked about this a lot, but I really do plan and set intentions and goals and focuses quarterly. And truly, January 2026 was a slowdown season, a quiet season, a season to really get clear. And that's exactly what happened. And I've had people reach out to me on Instagram because I did put up a Instagram story of a little life update, which was just a snippet of all I'm going to talk about today with you guys. But this is going to be a hodgepodge episode, and I'm announcing that I got a new job after, 13, 14 years of being self-employed in some capacity for over a decade in the MLM space, and then doing podcast production. I suppose you could call that freelance work. I really sat with it in January. So let's go month by month here because a lot happened, but it wasn't everything all at once. It was one thing at a time. So January happened, and in December, January, I had a handful of clients stop podcasting. We're also going to talk about the changes that I think and predict for the podcast industry. But I had a handful of clients stop podcasting. So my client load was and still is 3 podcast clients, one of which has gone down to bi-weekly episodes. So significantly less workload than what I was doing in summer 2025. And I wasn't feeling pulled to heavily market myself or to really network and put myself out there to get more clients. There was just something internal within me, and I truly believe it's God's guidance. God's guidance is sound and small and still. It's not loud and crazy and shiny and flashy. It's just I had this still small voice. So January was really leaning into that, and I started looking for jobs because I was what I really want is to get out of the house. So I started to look for jobs, and I found a position that was a part-time position in our tiny town. And long story short, I was so nervous. I applied. I got a phone interview scheduled. And then right at that phone interview, after I had prepared throughout the week for it, I got the phone call and they said, "We're calling as a courtesy to tell you the position was filled." And I was really, really sad. I really was okay, this will get me out of the house a couple times a week. And didn't even matter what the pay was, it just experience and getting out of the house. And I was so sad. And to me, that just really put an anchor in my heart of okay, this is something that I do really want. This disappointment is telling me something. And January is just a crazy month with sicknesses and snow days and all of that kind of stuff. February comes along, and I really knew I wanted to take this time to do, those appointments for ourselves as ladies that we don't get done. And so I went to my doctor, and one of the concerns I brought up to her was I was starting to feel a lump and pain in my right breast, and how that all works. And if any of you guys, the reason why I'm sharing about this is not with the intent to overshare, it's to if you or someone else you know has to get a biopsy and you're wondering, like, there are so many women that walk through this as I shared what I was going through. I had friends and family members share with me like they have done this before. And so I share this to just be a sounding board of like, if any of you ever have to cross this bridge, which a lot of us will as women, like I would be happy to message with you about like what the experience was like for me. Once again, long story short, at the end of February is when I got my biopsy. Biopsy results are benign. The reason why it was causing pain was it was half fluid and half, I guess, solid mass. So they drained the fluid, and for whatever reason, obviously I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't know why, but for whatever reason, since it has been drained, it hasn't had any pain. But like that was all of February, and then a mix of like my husband travels and just kid stuff and activities and various things like that. That was February, because how the process went was like, okay, beginning of February, my doctor was like, yes, we need to get this checked. And then I got a mammogram. And then with the mammogram, they needed to do an ultrasound. And then from there, we made the decision to biopsy it. Then we scheduled a biopsy. Then after the biopsy, you guys, it took 10 days to get the results. And I was just like, I had hope the whole time that everything was fine and going to be benign. But at times I definitely did get sad. And then through February and March, I watched a lot of TV, like so much TV. And it was February 4th, because I've looked back in my journals now. February 4th, I sat down and did a journal session of just like all the thoughts and feels. It was one of those journal sessions that was like, wow, things really flowed from my heart on what I feel like is next for me in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. And it was just weighing on my heart that like, what's stopping me is the distraction from my phone and social media and me hearing what other people are doing and hearing other people's experiences and this, that, and the other thing, because I have been told and been in the online business space for many years that this is the best space ever. This is where possibilities are limitless. And that is true to an extent. It also is not the same as what it was 15 years ago. And there is more fraud and more people putting on facades than people telling the truth and people being real. Now, there are 100% people being real and honest and sharing a wonderful message out of the goodness of their hearts because they really want to impact people. But that's just not what the internet is. And I decided beginning of February, I'm going to give up social media for 40 days. Now, I had done weekends. I had done a full week. I had never been off of social media for that long ever in my life because I've always had a sense and essence of that's how I made a living, was being online. And man, wow, like it was so impactful. It was a long, long time. There were parts of social media that I missed. I still had to log on for work on my desktop when I was like linking things for my clients, and I would check in on like who was messaging me, and I would comment on some people's when I was viewing from my desktop. But I suppose you could then really say like I gave up scrolling for 40 days. I gave up having the apps on my phone for 40 days. But even if I was checking social media on my laptop, you're not on social. It doesn't hook you in like that. So it would have been like maybe 20 minutes max, most of the time, like 5 to 10. And I then was just like, okay, I really am feeling like I want to get out into the world. Like I want to be in the physical world, not the online world, but the physical world. And long story short, that brings us to March. We were out to dinner for a friend's birthday and just small talk chatting with another friend. And that friend happened to have a friend text her about a position that was open at her place of work and said, hey, I'm sending this to you because do you know anybody looking for something like this? And at that time she was like, no, actually I don't, but I'll keep an eye out. And then when we were out to dinner, she brought it up to me. I had the intuition to be like, okay, yeah, let's explore this. I had my first interview. I had a second interview on a Thursday. Then that Friday was offered the position, and I started Wednesday, end of March. So seriously, Q1 had a lot going on, like I said, but it was one thing after another, not everything all at once. And so when I look at it from a cyclical standpoint, it's like, and that's what this podcast is about, living in sync, for me now is like really understanding how life happens in seasons, life happens in a rhythm and in emotion, and to live within that rhythm and motion of what's going on in your life and not looking at what's going on in other people's lives. Because, January to February to March, I read that, and you guys, did I talk about this with you guys? In December, I read the book by Mark Batterson, Gradually Then Suddenly, where the entire premise of the book is that, God works gradually. When you are doing the mundane things, when it's small steps that add up over time, then all of a sudden it's like gradually things just start working in your favor. And I mean, I have been writing about secretively in my journal about wanting to get a job outside of the home for over a year now, for sure, maybe longer. And I was afraid to say that because I felt like I had to then, defend myself in the online space. Or I don't think that it ever made me feel like, oh, well, then that means people think I'm not successful in online business, because I'm so not interested in like putting on a facade of success. Like for me, it's about what I want to do and being proud of what it is that I'm doing. And podcast production is still very successful. Which brings to a lot of what people are questioning now that I have a job, like what about podcast production? So with the schedule that I have, I can still make it work to manage the 3 clients that I have. The 3 clients that I have, we've been working together for a long time. So we are in a good rhythm. Like I can definitely time block and know like, okay, this is when I am going to do this person's, this is when I'm going to do this person's. And we have very good communication together on the rhythm of things still getting done for them and their podcasts. So that to be said, when I said like there's definitely good people online doing really great things, helping and support people in a mission, but I'm going to rant, and this isn't my first rant about this on this show, but I'm going to rant about being online. And we know from the Anxious Generation, the book that went viral and has so much evidence in it, that being online is not good for kids. And truly, it's BS to think that it doesn't do the same for adults. And AI content is getting so hard to detect unless you are chronically online. And the evidence proves that like the more kids are online, the lower their level of confidence and happiness, that it's so silly to think that that's not the same for us, because it is. Like social media and being online impacts adults just as much. And there is, like I said, so much AI content, like even AI content that is like, oh, here's this beautiful woman in her 80s and she's looking so fit and skinny and lean and she's getting brand deals and she looks like she is a real person. And her entire page is AI. She is not a real person. And like, it's getting harder and harder to detect. There are videos going around about false information about current events. Let's just put it that way, on both sides of the coin. And it's like so disgusting. Like the internet has become such a gross place, and I just started getting so sick of it. We're going to talk about online influencers and selling medications and peptides. I've got a fitness rant coming for you guys here at the end of this, but it's just people are buying fake followers and fake comments and shares. And now even YouTube and podcasts are pay to play. Like people who are at the top of the charts are now paying their way to be at the top of the charts. It is so crazy. And now personally, I'm listening, the podcasts are changing. I'm personally listening to two types of podcast content: entertainment, like Good Hang with Amy Poehler, love that. Also faith-based podcasts. So there are a couple of faith-based podcasts that I really love and listen to. And that's probably just me because I'm not searching for answers from somebody on the internet anymore. And I think that's probably because I have rooted in my heart that like there is so much fakeness and facade going online. Like even, you know, some of the people who are in like the high ticket sales and the digital marketing space. And just remember, I heard this quote one time where it's like, remember or consider the source, remember the motive, or something like that. Consider the source, think of the motive. And if excuse me, if somebody is out there online portraying that their life is better than yours, like oftentimes it's because there is so much, I don't even know how to explain it, but everything is starting to become pay to play. Everything. And so through January, when I told you I was getting really still and really quiet, I was doing the SOAP Bible study by Horatio Printing. And this Bible study is different because you use this method of studying the Bible where it's SOAP, SOAP. It gives you scripture and like no context, but just sitting with the theme of what these segments of scripture is. And then O is observation, A is application, and P is prayer. And in this particular time frame, it was on purpose and passion. And it is so crazy to me how like we are told that our purpose and our passion often is like what we do for a living. And we should have this big pursuit and passion and purpose about our job. But in the context of faith, passion and purpose is the real world and our communities, not just online community, but in-person community, making a difference, making an impact. If that's, whether that's giving the carpooling, or if that is being a good neighbor, or if that is, you know, going to a certain event that supports a certain charity. Like purpose and passion is not just what you do for work. And oftentimes, if you put the pressure of your work being your purpose and passion, it often just leads to like a roller coaster of like, oh my gosh, I love this. Oh no, I'm not fulfilled anymore. Oh my gosh, I love this. Oh my gosh, I'm not fulfilled anymore. But when you put your passion and your purpose and knowing that it's living on this earth to love God and love others, then it becomes such a sound mission that even when, you know, you may be at your job, you then can see how like, you know, your passion and your purpose is your family, and you go to your job because it is something you are skilled at. It is something that you have learned how to do that provides for you the means of which to support your family. Does that make sense? Whereas I think people online are very much just like passion and purpose and la 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 la. I don't know. Probably not explaining that very well either, but I'm trying to move through this super quickly here so this episode isn't a million minutes long. But should I save this for another episode? Maybe I'll go into it on another episode about the fitness industry too has just gone nuts, and how there are influencers using and selling GLP-1s and peptides and all types of medications with zero knowledge about them. They just get to cut a check. Now, let me be clear. If you are on a GLP-1 and you have had amazing results and you love it so much and it's changed your life, I love that for you. And I do believe GLP-1s can be that for people. Just please do not get it from a sketchy influencer that has an affiliate link to some telehealth company. Like, do your research. It is worth it, because once again, I am not in the online space as much anymore, but I have seen people talking about peptides specifically, how some of them can actually like accelerate. I don't even know if I'm not even going to articulate this right, so maybe I won't even say it, but like there can be harmful effects even if they do come with positive benefits. And so please just really use, I know we always say, do your research, but truly take the time to make the decision. Because yes, I've totally thought about getting on a GLP-1. Am I still frustrated with what I weigh because I wish I weighed 20 to 30 pounds less? Yes, I do. But I still am just like, okay, I am waiting. And also like, I'm not going to get it through a peptide company that is online. And it would have to be like a well-respected person that I can go into their office, have a conversation with them. And the whole microdose, like that's not a thing. If somebody's like, I'm microdosing. No, with anything, you should always be given the adequate dosage for the goal that you want for based on your body, your weight, your height. Like that is how medication, and these are medications, are properly dosed. So don't buy into the, oh, this is a microdose. If somebody can't authentically say to you, we are properly dosing you based off of these factors about you, then they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm just going to be bold. Like they don't. Microdosing is like a made up word to make people feel better about whatever. Like for some reason, it just feels better. Like, oh, I'm microdosing, blah, 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 blah. No, you should be taking the adequate dose based off of you and your goals. Microdosing is so silly. Peptides are very complicated. Be skeptical of anyone and everyone trying to sell you something online. I'm going to say it. And it's so funny how like the fitness industry is absolutely the best at rebranding. And let me give you an example, because like I said, 15-ish years ago is when I started out with Beachbody, and that was when Turbo Fire was hot and heavy, and Insanity and workouts like that. And the whole gimmick was stop wasting your time by spending an hour on the treadmill every single day and do these HIIT training workouts because they are way more effective for you. And it was like hit, and stop being a hamster on the treadmill, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what's popular now? Guess what people are talking about now and saying now? Zone 2 cardio. It's now been rebranded to Zone 2 cardio. Getting in your steps. All you have to do is walk. Have you been on that side of TikTok or Instagram where people are like, all I do is walk and lift heavy. That's all I do is walk and lift heavy. And I make sure I get my 10,000 steps. Well, 15 years ago, somebody would have been like, oh, you spending all of that time just walking is so pointless. It all is important. And that's what I have preached on here, even when it was back to feminine edge fitness, right? Where I was saying to you guys, it's all important. strength, stability, flexibility, mobility. All of it is important. Interval training and steady state. It's all important. And at some point, we will need to emphasize different modalities based off of what it is we need, because I'm feeling the effects right now of just walking and just heavy strength training, where I am having to work so much right now on my joint mobility, my stabilizing muscles, and like it's all because I didn't have a well-rounded plan for the majority of my late 20s and early 30s. I've got the muscle mass, I got the strength, but there was so much imbalances that now I'm having to really course correct that. And that'll be okay. Now I'm still working on my cardiovascular. You guys heard, like, that's the whole reason why I got back into running, which I did get a treadmill. I got a treadmill, you guys. So now I've been getting my walks in, and I'm doing a variety of incline walks. I'm doing some walk runs. I'm doing some steady slow state runs. I'm doing some runs that push me. And it's been so nice having a treadmill at my house, just because it helps make the regularity of my runs happen, so I can train smarter, not harder, because I would have to pack miles into like 2 to 3 runs a week. Whereas now, even if I just get, a good walk warm up in, I'm just doing a little bit of a run because I'm running more frequently instead of intensity. I've loved having my treadmill, but everything gets rebranded. Everything. And I bet the next thing is going to be kickboxing, because what goes around comes around is like, Taibao and turbo kick, and all of those were so hot. Like, even Carl Deichler is doing anything and everything that he can to revive body. And now there's a resurgence of P90X. Oh my gosh, I kind of gave an eye roll when I saw that new P90X trainer, but yet still taking the P90X branding and a P90X supplement line. Like, come on. The fitness industry, you guys, you have to understand that it is going to hype something up, and now it's protein, and now it's heavy strength training, and now it's getting your 10K steps. But just remember, little over a decade ago, the whole thing was, stop spending so long on the treadmill. You're not doing anything if you're not getting your heart rate at max capacity, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to say, none of it is bad. Movement of all kinds is good. That's my message. And that is, I've said this to you guys before, that the best way to know what are the best workouts for you, number one, are the ones you like doing. If you like doing it, keep doing it. And know think about where your weaknesses are and work on those, right? So when my son was 5, I remember this vividly, and he was just constantly like, that's my tag, chase me. And I could not run worth a trash. Like, it felt like I had cement blocks on my feet. And I said to myself, no, this isn't healthy. Our bodies are made to move. Our bodies are made to move in this way. And that is when I started running, and that's when I started noticing like stabilizer weaknesses, and then threw my back out, and that's like a big hip and hip flexor and glute and lower back mobility thing. It's just imbalances all around, and that's because I was only focused on what fitness culture told me. So what are those weaknesses that you have, and play into those? So big life update, you guys. If you have any questions, please come on over to Instagram. We can chat. I'm going to be less and less online, but does that mean this podcast is going to stop? I don't know. If I feel like I'm talking to myself all the time, yeah. But if I really feel like I'm talking to you and you're talking to me and we're talking about things together, that makes me really excited to record. After this long break, I did get a message from somebody end of February. If you're listening, you know who you are, saying like, hey, I'm a listener. I've missed your show. How's it going? What's going on? And I was like, she is really who inspired me to sit down and be like, okay, it's time to give a life update. I got a job. I'm still doing podcast production. I have 3 amazing clients. The fitness industry is nuts. Live your own life. Don't fall for the facade of the internet. There are good people. I will caveat and say that there are good people, but just be so careful and live your life in sync with what you've got going on. And thanks for listening, my friend. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.